Okay, so let's unpack this. We are stepping into what might be the absolute biggest, most contentious battleground in the SAP ecosystem right now.
Hmm.
It is the clash of the titans, CAP versus RAP. And I know straight away that sounds like a very niche wrestling match to anyone outside the bubble.
It does have a certain ring to it, doesn't it?
Hmm.
But honestly, for the people living in this world, the architects, the developers, the CIOs, this isn't just a wrestling match. It's more like a religious war.
It really feels like that. But for anyone actually running an SAP landscape, this is a huge strategic decision with just a massive price tag attached. We're talking about the Cloud Application Programming Model, that's CAP, versus the ABAP RESTful Application Programming Model, RAP.
Right.
And usually when people debate this, they get stuck in the weeds immediately. Which one runs faster, which syntax is cleaner.
Which one has the cooler logo? Exactly. It becomes a tribal debate. You have the JavaScript and Java developers on one side who want everything open source and cloud native.
Yeah.
And then, you have the ABAP loyalists on the other side who want to stick to the core they've known for decades.
But today, we are flipping the script. We're taking a deep dive into a set of sources that completely ignore the cool factor. We are looking at this from the business perspective.
Yep.
We're talking cold, hard cash, long-term strategy, and the absolute nightmare of maintenance costs that nobody puts on the PowerPoint slide.
And that is where it gets fascinating.
Yeah.
Because there is this prevailing myth out there that I think we really need to bust right now.
What's the myth?
The myth says that CAP, because it's open source, because it uses standard languages like Node.js, is automatically the cheaper, more agile option. And conversely, that RAP, because it's based on ABAP, is the expensive, lumbering dinosaur.
But our sources are essentially screaming, hold on a minute. So the mission for this deep dive is to uncover the truth about those costs. We're going to look at security, the terrifying concept of dependency hell, and we're even going to referee a direct financial showdown between two hypothetical companies to see who actually saves money.
It's a reality check. Ultimately, it's about deciding whether you want to be a software development company that builds infrastructure or a company that just runs efficient business processes. And the answer, well, it's not as obvious as the marketing slides would have you believe.
So let's jump right into the deep end. Part 1, stability. Our source material starts with this really evocative image that I think anyone in this industry will recognize immediately, the 25-year-old custom application.
Oh, yes. The legacy factor. We've all seen it.
You know the one. You log into an SAP system, maybe an old ECC box, and you find a custom report. It's ugly. It's got that gray battleship background. The font looks like it's from a terminal in a sci-fi movie from the 80s.
Not winning any design awards, for sure.
Definitely not. But here's the thing. It works.
It has been running for 2.5 decades. It has survived upgrades, migrations to Asia, and probably 5 different IT directors. And the crucial point the source makes is this. It requires zero maintenance.
Zero. That sounds impossible in modern software. Everything needs an update eventually.
But that is the superpower of ABAP, backward compatibility. You wrote that report in 1999 using the syntax of the time and still runs in 2024.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, that is effectively free money. You aren't paying the developer to refactor it every 6 months just because a library was deprecated.
Okay, now let's contrast that with the CAP stack. This is where the source introduces the concept of dependency hell. Now, I've heard developers complain about this over coffee, but for the person signing the checks, why does this matter?
Well, think of a CAP application like a tower of Jenga blocks. But here's the catch. You didn't make all the blocks. You borrowed a block from a library here, an open source component there, a Node.js package from some third party. These are your dependencies.
And a modern web app might rely on hundreds of them.
Hundreds, sometimes thousands of them.
Hey, but isn't that the point of open source? You build on top of other people's work to save time. You don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Initially, yes, it speeds up the build massively. But here is the risk. If one of those tiny blocks at the bottom, a component you didn't even write, maybe something that just formats dates, has a bug, or gets updated, or worse, has a security flaw.
The whole tower shakes.
Exactly. And to fix it, you have to update that component. But wait, that update might not be compatible with the component sitting next to it. So now you have to update that one too. It triggers a chain reaction.
So you fix one minor security bug and suddenly you have to retest the entire application stack.
Or multiple applications. If you have 50 apps all using that same broken logging library, you are opening up 50 projects, patching them, testing them, and redeploying them. That is a massive hidden operational cost.
A cost that never shows up on the initial price tag of the project.
Exactly. It's a trade-off. You're paying for the speed of development with the pain of maintenance.
And this ties directly into security, doesn't it? The source makes a really strong distinction between how security is handled in the RAPIP app world versus the CCAP world.
It's the difference between done for you and do it yourself. In the ABAP world, especially with the ABAP environment on the cloud, it's a SaaS model, software as a service.
Hmm.
If there is a vulnerability in the underlying platform, SAP patches it.
One patch to rule them all.
Precisely. The IT department applies an SAP note, or SAP applies it automatically in the cloud, and boom, everything is secure again. You, as the business, didn't have to touch your custom code.
Your developers didn't have to stop building new features to go fix old plumbing.
Right. But with TAP, you own that supply chain.
Mm.
If a project gets infected and the source explicitly mentions backdoors or malicious code in open source libraries, which is a very real threat these days, you have to react.
But wait, I know the SAP Business Technology Platform BTP has services to scan for this stuff. I've seen the demos. Doesn't that solve the problem?
Ah, that's the catch. The scanner acts like a smoke alarm. It tells you, hey, there's a fire in the kitchen, but doesn't put the fire out.
So it's on you to actually fight the fire.
It is. You still have to go in, find the code, swap out the library, rewrite the logic if the new library works differently, and test everything. The resolution falls entirely on you.
So simply choosing CIP means you are implicitly agreeing to be much more vigilant and active in maintaining your code base forever, whereas RAP is more set it and forget it.
That's a very fair assessment.
Yep.
It's about resource allocation. Do you want your budget going toward keeping the lights on or building new value?
Speaking of resources, let's talk about the humans involved, the developers. This was one of the most interesting parts of the research for me, this concept of the half-baked developer.
I love that phrasing.
Yeah.
It sounds harsh, but it really points to a reality in the labor market.
Yeah, the idea is that while we all love the concept of a full-stack Superman who can write perfect ABAP in the morning and flawless JavaScript in the afternoon,
Yeah.
those people are unicorns.
They are incredibly rare. The source argues that while developers can learn multiple languages, they usually only master one deep ecosystem. If you try to force a team to support both CAP and RAP equally, you end up with developers who are half-baked in both.
Meaning they can write the code to make it work, but maybe they aren't great at the deep stuff.
Exactly. Can they do complex unit testing in both? Do they understand performance optimization in the ADNA database? For both. Can they debug a weird memory leak in Node.js and an ADAP runtime error? Usually the answer is no.
So it's better to have an expert in one than a generalist who struggles.
It is. Better to have an expert in one model than a generalist who struggles with the details in both.
But isn't there an argument that JavaScript developers are, cheaper and easier to find than ABA developers? That's usually the counter-argument I hear from HR departments.
They are easier to find, yes. But the source brings up process knowledge. This is huge for business applications. An ABAP developer usually hasn't just been learning syntax in a boot camp. They've been working inside SAP modules for years.
They know what a sales order is.
They know the data model. They understand the business process. You don't have to explain to them what general ledger means or how a billing document flows into accounting.
Right. Whereas if you hire a brilliant Node.js developer from a startup background,
They might be a wizard at asynchronous coding, but you are going to spend 6 months teaching them how SAP data structures work. That is a massive, often uncalculated training cost.
and this brings us to the clean core strategy. We hear this buzzword all the time. Keep the core clean. How does the talent equation fit into clean core?
Well, Clean Core is about building extensions side by side on the cloud. And the source makes a great point about synergy here. If you choose RAP, which is ABAP, you're using the same language for your core on-premise and your cloud extensions.
So the same developer can work on both sides of the fence.
Yes. The new ABAP Cloud syntax works in both environments. So if you upskill your team in ABA Cloud, they can maintain your legacy core and build your new shiny cloud apps.
But if you choose CAP, that's strictly for the cloud.
Strictly BTP. You can't use CAP to fix your on-premise ERP, so you inevitably end up with 2 separate skill silos. One team for the old stuff, one team for the new stuff.
And good luck getting them to talk to each other efficiently. You create a cultural divide in IT, the old school team and the cool kids team.
That never ends well for office politics. Never.
Okay, let's move to the nuts and bolts. Infrastructure. The source uses a phrase I really like. Batteries included versus build your own.
This is a crucial differentiator that explains the cost structure. When you buy into the ABAE environment for RAP, it's like buying a high-end, fully furnished apartment. You walk in and everything is there.
What kind of everything?
The runtime delivers built-in services, application jobs, application logs, email notifications, transport management for moving code from dev to test to production. It's all just integrated. It's part of the platform subscription.
You don't have to configure a separate server just to send an email.
Exactly. And with CIP, it's more like a box of Lego bricks. It's incredibly flexible. You can build whatever you want. But if you want logging, you need to subscribe to the BTP logging service. You want to move code, you need to pay for the transport service. You want a UI, you need the work zone service.
And I assume each of those services comes with its own price tag and configuration headache.
They do. And this is where the cost comparison gets tricky. People look at the base price of the CAP runtime and think, wow, that's cheap. But they forget they need to buy all the batteries separately to make it an enterprise-grade application.
Plus, there's the availability issue. RIP runs everywhere, right?
That's a big advantage for hybrid landscapes. You can run RIP on the business technology platform, on private cloud, and on-premise in S/4HANA. CIP is currently BTP only.
So if you have a strict requirement to keep data inside your own firewall on-premise, maybe for regulatory reasons, KAP is basically off the table.
For the most part, yes. You'd have to jump through massive hoops to make it work, whereas RIP just runs natively on the S/4HANA box you already own.
And there is a data integration angle, too. The source points out that RAP is getting these new native SQL services. Why is that a big deal?
Speed. Native SQL services allow for super fast, direct integration. You are querying the data right where it lives.
Whereas CAP has to go through the API layer?
Usually OData, yes, which is fine. It's the industry standard, but it involves serialization, network traffic, deserialization. It can just be slower and creates more overhead than the native integration RAP offers.
All right, I promised a financial showdown, and here it is. This is my favorite part of the deep dive because it cuts through the marketing fluff. We have two hypothetical companies, Company A and Company B.
Okay, let's set the stage. Company A decides to go full CAP, the modern route. Company B decides to go full RAP for their side-by-side extensions, the traditional route.
Let's look at the bill. What does Company A, the CAP company, have to pay for?
Okay, to make their CAP landscape work, the source estimates they need 3 sub-accounts: dev, test, prod. They need the integration suite to talk to the ERP. They need the transport service to move code. They need the Cloud Foundry runtime to host the app. And they need SAP Build Work Zone for the UI.
That's a laundry list of subscriptions. It's not just one thing.
No, it's a basket of services. And when you tally it all up based on the official calculator used in the source, it comes out to approximately 6,200 euros per month.
Okay, keep that number in mind, 6,200. Now let's look at Company B, the RAP loyalists.
They are using the ABAP environment. Now, here's a cool detail the source highlights. They use system hibernation.
Oh, I like that, putting the server to sleep.
Exactly. Since it's a cloud service, when you aren't using the development system, say at night or on weekends, you can hibernate it to save money. That's a specific feature of the ABAP environment. They also need Cloud Foundry for the web router, but much less of it.
And the total for the RAP team?
Approximately 6,600 euros per month.
Wait, 6,200 versus 6,600. They are basically the same.
That is the aha moment. The difference is negligible. The myth that open source is free or CAP is cheap just evaporates when you add in all the enterprise services you actually need to run a business application.
And doesn't RAP include some things for free that you'd have to pay for otherwise?
Yes, and this is critical. It includes the central ATC, the ABAP test cockpit. This tool does security checks and code quality checks automatically. In the RAP model, that's just included in the box.
In other models, you might be buying third-party tools or setting up servers to do that.
Exactly.
So if the costs are basically a wash and RAP has the stability, the batteries included, and the talent advantages, why would anyone choose CAP? We have to be fair here. Where does CAP actually win?
And the source is very fair about this. CAP wins on flexibility and the ecosystem. It opens the door to the massive world of JavaScript libraries. But specifically right now, it wins on AI.
AI, of course. That's the differentiator.
If you are doing heavy image processing, file splitting, or integrating with the latest generative AI models, the libraries available in the Node.js or Python ecosystem are just miles ahead of what ABI can do natively.
So if I'm building an app that scans invoices using AI, recognizes the vendor, and automatically splits PDFs, CAP is the tool.
Likely, yes. The source admits ABI needs to catch up there. But, and this is a big but, If you are building standard forms over data, business process extensions, RAP is holding its ground perfectly well.
There's a survey mentioned too, the Developer Insights Survey. How do the actual coders feel?
Despite all the hype around new languages, ABA consistently ranks in first place in the SAP community. It remains the signature language of SAP. The community is huge and very active.
Which brings us to the personal takeaway from the authors of our source material. They had to make this choice for their own company. Which way did they go?
They went RAP only.
Interesting. Even knowing the AI benefits of CAP.
Yes. They decided that the training costs were the deal breaker. The effort to maintain 2 stacks training developers in both KP and RAP infrastructure was just too high. And since RAP covered 95% of their needs, they couldn't justify the complexity of adding ShikiP for that last 5%.
And this leads us to the absolute best acronym of the episode, the warning against CPRAP.
I suspect they waited a long time to use that one in the article.
It's brilliant, though. CPREP is what happens when you try to do CP and RAP without a clear strategy.
It's the mess in the middle. If you don't pick a lane, you end up with a fragmented landscape that is expensive to maintain and confusing for your developers. You need to decide, are we a RAP shop that uses CKP only for AI? Or are we a CADE shop? If you drift into CPRE, you get the costs of both and the benefits of neither.
So let's zoom out. What does this all mean for our listener? If you're sitting there with an IT budget and a roadmap, what should you be thinking?
You need to look at total cost of ownership, TCO, not just the initial build cost. Sure, a developer can whip up a KP app in a weekend using open source blocks. But ask yourself, are you ready to patch its dependencies for the next 10 years? Are you ready to hire a separate team to maintain it when that developer leaves?
And on the flip side, are you leveraging the talent you already have?
Exactly. If you have a room full of ABAP experts who know your business inside and out, why force them to become mediocre JavaScript developers? Give them the tools, AirAP, ABAP Cloud, to be productive in the cloud immediately.
It really comes down to that identity question you mentioned at the start.
It does. When you leave your private network and build in the cloud, your responsibility for security increases. If you choose the open source route, you are stepping into a world where you are the guardian of your own code supply chain.
Yeah, that is a heavy thought. It's not just code, it's liability.
It is. So the final provocative thought I would leave you with is this. Are you ready to be a software company that patches its own dependencies, monitors for backdoors, and manages a complex microservices architecture? Or do you just want to support your business processes efficiently?
Because if you just want the invoice to get paid, maybe you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Precisely. Sometimes the boring choice is the most profitable one.
A powerful place to leave it. We hope this deep dive helps you audit your own extension strategy before you end up in the land of CRAP. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.